Mrs. Rodriguez, good evening. If you would please come to the podium. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm speaking to you tonight for the first time in my new role as the president of the St. Lucie Classroom Teachers Association. Christine Hill, our vice president, is here with me as well. I'm looking forward to working with all of you and with our new superintendent and deputy superintendent as we go forward into 2015-16 and beyond. I have three things that I wanted to bring forward tonight. The first is a concern, the second is a bit of a challenge, and the third is a request. The first concern is an extreme concern for the 400 positions that the district is going to be trying to fill this summer. We've been told to prepare for at least 400 new teachers at new teacher orientation. That's about 10% or a little bit more than 10% of our total teaching force. There were 176 non-reappointments for one reason or another, or 119 resignations as of May 29th. And since the district continues to lose teachers who are now resigning after they've been reappointed, that number is sure to climb. This is an overwhelming number of positions for a district our size, for a district that's not opening new schools, for a district that's not seeing an influx of more students, for a district that is not seeing a huge boom in new houses being developed. We have schools, especially in the green zone, that had already had unfilled and open positions almost the entire year, and now are losing somewhere between 20 and 30% of their actual teaching staff. What is the plan? We've got to have a plan. We want to be involved in the plan. Our greatest concern is that we will start the year with 100 unfilled positions or more and have 100 unfilled positions throughout the year, and that I'll be standing here again next year talking about the 100 unfilled positions plus all the ones we need to fill. So this is where the challenge part comes in. What I'm planning to do as president of the union, and I said this before I was elected, and now I get to actually make it happen, which is sometimes an unusual thing when someone has made a promise before they're elected and then they actually are elected. I want to walk in my members' shoes, and I plan to do that at least twice a month. And what that means is I plan to spend the day with a member in their work role, whatever that happens to be, doing the job that they're doing alongside of them. I don't mean that I'm going to go and visit and sit and read and then have a nice catered lunch and go back and say everything's hunky-dory at the school. I really want to see the truth, because sometimes the things that I hear may or may not be accurate. I want to be there and hear those things too. And I want to challenge you all and our new superintendent and our new deputy superintendent, who's getting confirmed tonight at this board meeting, to do the same. Just like I'm going to take a day or possibly two every month out of my job to go and spend time actually listening to the people that are doing the work, I really want to encourage you to figure out a way to make that happen yourselves. I know every once in a while a few of you have time and go out to a school, but Vanessa said this for years, and I've taken that to heart, and that's something that's important to me, and that's what I intend to do. We have a disconnect. All of us have a disconnect, and the longer we're out of a school, the harder it is to actually connect with what's really going on in there. And I'm admitting that here publicly to all of you, that there are things that go on in schools that I don't understand, and I have to understand them in order to help the people that I'm supposed to be helping. And I think the same goes for you as elected officials, same goes for our superintendent and for our deputy superintendent. So that's my challenge to you. And I think that would help actually alleviate some of our recruitment and retention problem as well. It'll be like Undercover Boss, except for the undercover part. And the TV cameras. My next thing is a request, and it's both simple and complex. On your agenda tonight, you have a recommendation to terminate a good teacher. Okay. Jean McGuire is on your agenda to be terminated tonight. She's been a kindergarten teacher
She's been a kindergarten teacher at Savannah Ridge for 12 years. She isn't in trouble. She hasn't done anything wrong. I've never had to represent her. Parents don't complain about her. What she did was get injured 3 years ago by a student in her classroom while she was trying to keep other kids from being injured. And so she got 2 herniated discs in her neck. Her kids have written her love notes. Her loyal colleagues are here with her. She has evaluations that are effective, highly effective, for the last 5 years, including this year, the year of her termination. This year it's highly effective. Why does this matter? Because you're being asked to fire her. You're being asked to fire her because the district has determined that after 3 years of performing a job post-injury, that she can no longer perform the job of a teacher. Now, is Jean 100% of the physical person she was prior to her injury? No, she's not. She has no feeling in 2 of her fingers on her right hand. She cannot lift more than 5 pounds. She can't reach overhead. And she can only use the computer for a limited amount of time. She can teach reading and math and social skills. Her test scores and her final evaluations determine that. And every year she has been evaluated fairly and accurately. Jean has also been a mentor and a leader on her campus these last 3 years since her injury. She was the DAC representative. She was the SAC chair. She's been the kindergarten grade chair for 3 years, including this year, the year of her alleged year that she can't do her job. Has it been easy for her? No, it hasn't. She's learned to write with her left hand. She's over 60, so you want to think about the requirement for that. She's learned to write with her left hand. She's had to ask colleagues to assist in moving boxes. She's had to have volunteers tear workbook pages out of workbooks. And instead of reaching over her kidney table to track print for kids as they're reading, she moves them closer to her on her left side and does it with them sitting right next to her. We make accommodations, and the district is required to make accommodations for persons with temporary or permanent disabilities all the time. And I think everyone sitting up there could probably think of someone that they know that has had accommodations made for them in this school district. Jean McGuire does not require any special equipment, tools, or fancy technology. What she needs is the assistance of her willing colleagues and a volunteer or 2, perhaps, to help do those things that I just mentioned. These are all things that are reasonable, and they don't cost anything. The Americans with Disabilities Act applies to both individuals who are handicapped or injured in some way outside of the workplace, as well as to those who are injured on the job. Just because they're injured on the job doesn't mean we don't have to provide accommodations. I have been at many work sites myself where teachers who have vision problems, use wheelchairs, are unable to lift heavy items, are all accommodated. This situation is no different. The district has had the same documentation for 3 years regarding Jean's injury. She's been doing the same job for 3 years. She's been evaluated effective and highly effective for 3 years, except this year on May 22nd, she got a letter from the school district that said it's been determined that she's no longer capable of doing the job she's been doing highly effectively. Jean McGuire could retire. She actually has just 1 more year left of drop, but she still wants to teach. And frankly, with 400 open positions, we still need her to teach. You have the option as a board to disagree with the superintendent's recommendation to terminate Ms. McGuire. You can actually act in the name of what makes sense, especially since the rules don't seem to apply to everyone equally. You can even postpone it if you really want to do a little bit more research and trust that what I'm telling you here is the truth. Jean wasn't allowed to say goodbye to her students. When she received the letter on May 22nd, she was not allowed to go back to her classroom, not allowed to say goodbye to her colleagues or her kids. She left them 2 days before a field day that they had been planning. She had made them all Minion shirts along with her own. Parents received a note that said she would be gone for the rest of the year. The children lost their teacher overnight with no explanation. I tried 3 different times to appeal to the superintendent personally and to HR. Nothing. So this is our last stop. Jean is here. Jean? She wants to teach. She wants another year. Jean got her degree at 47. All she ever wanted to do was teach. She was in college and tragedy struck and she had to leave college to come home and take care of her brother. And got married and had kids and eventually went back to school. She worked full time and took care of her kids and finally got her degree. She's been teaching for 19 years, 12 of those years in St. Lucie County. Every single one of those years successful. She can still have another successful year. You have 400 positions. Please pull her termination off the agenda. Find out why we can't figure out a way to keep a teacher who wants to stay. I am very sorry for my emotional state at the moment, but there's a lot of stuff that does not make sense to me, and this is one of them. I sincerely look forward with hope and great enthusiasm to the next few years and hope that we can bring some sense back to what we do, and that when we recognize people for the good things that they do at schools and we give them the Star Award, that we don't just mean it for that moment. We mean it for people like Jean.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. CWA report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move toward our consent agenda. Board members, we have the agenda before us. I would entertain a motion at this time to accept the agenda as presented. So moved by Ms. Hawley. Did I hear a second? Second by Ms. Hensley. All in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we have the agenda before us, and the motion carries 5-0. Are there any conflicts you need to declare on any of the items, board members, coming before us? No conflicts? Hearing none, Madam Superintendent, may we receive your recommendations?
I believe before we move forward with the recommendations, I heard at least 2 that were opposed, so we need to modify those who were in favor of moving forward with the consent agenda. Mr. Harrell, do you have any advice at this time?
Simply need the minutes to reflect the actual vote of the membership on adoption of the consent.
Okay, so was that a 3-2 or a 2-3 is what I'm wondering at this point? Because
And that is only to
move
pass
forward,
the
that would be
to
accurate.
move forward, it's not to make
Yes,
the
ma'am,
vote
I
right now.
understand that.
Okay,
Just want to make sure that was clear.
okay, yes,
With
ma'am.
that clarification, I recommend the board approve a total of 20 consent agenda items, beginning with number 8.1 and ending with 17.1 as presented.
Board members, we have received the recommendations. Are there any items you wish to comment on or discuss and therefore pull out for separate vote?
Madam Chair, I have both, actually. Both fall under the personnel agenda. There are 2 that I wish to comment on, and I do wish to pull for separate vote what was brought before us tonight with regarding Ms. McGuire. I don't feel like we know all of the information, and I'm not in good conscience able to vote on that without it.
So you are pulling out 11.1?
That's correct.
Okay, and you have 2 areas you would like to comment on as well.
That's correct as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Okay, at this time, Ms. Hawley, please make your comments first. And before you do that, yes, make your comments first, okay.
Okay. My comment is actually a follow-up from our last meeting when I brought forth some of the appointments that are coming before us now, and we have 2 on the agenda tonight. One, Ms. Carrie Padrick will be named the Chief Communication Officer, and Mr. Jonathan Prince will be named the Deputy Superintendent. And just to reiterate that both of those are appointments coming from our new superintendent, and that neither position will actually take effect until July 1. But just wanted to distinguish that it was incoming superintendent appointments.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. Please go on now to your 11.1 discussion, a separate vote.
I would like to pull for separate vote just the agenda item regarding the termination of not the entire 11.1, just the line item for Ms. McGuire and her situation. Not aware of the things that were brought to our attention tonight. Normally, the board does not interfere in personnel issues. That's typically beyond our realm, but I am not comfortable moving forward with that particular recommendation until we have all of the facts and the ability to review it.
Okay, at this time, before we go any further, Superintendent Yost, may we have your recommendations on the remaining items?
Yes, ma'am. I recommend that the board approve a total of 20 consent agenda items beginning with 8.1 and ending with 17.1 with an amendment to pull the termination of Ms. Jean Marie McGuire, which is a line item contained within item number 11.1 on the consent agenda.
Okay, very good. May I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Ingersoll and second by Ms. Hensley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And now we have pulled the separate item for vote, for discussion and separate vote. Is there any other board members that would like to comment at this time?
Two comments real quickly. Number one, this is a bad precedent on many levels. It's been on the agenda for 2 weeks, and to hear it at a meeting like this is a little disturbing, probably not only for this board member, but a couple other board members too. On both sides, we should have heard a plea or a phone call rather than doing it in a public meeting. That's one issue. The second issue is, are we postponing this to the next meeting? Is that and I'm addressing this to Attorney Harrell, is that when we vote no, what are we voting actually no on? Or is this a postponement for us to get more information?
Madam Chair, Mr. Ingersoll, the board would need to take specific action on the recommendation for the termination. So if you wish to continue the matter to your next meeting or to another date certain, or if you need to simply reject the superintendent's recommendation. But at that point in time, I'm not sure what her status is, whether or not, what would be the action if it's merely a withdrawal. Probably if the board does not wish to act tonight, likely the best move would be to move it to a date certain and secure additional information so that the board is in a position to make an informed decision if you are unsure tonight.
What was that, Ms. Hensley?
The recommendation should probably be to move it to the next meeting, and that gives time to get the information.
And I'm comfortable with that, having made the motion to pull that for separate vote.
That's good for you. Thank you.
Well, if it looks like we have to go ahead and vote on that motion. Okay. That we will postpone it to the next board meeting. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Is there a second on that?
Do we have a second?
Okay.
Okay, your motion, are you seconding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All in favor? Nay?
All in favor?
I'm sorry, I'm saying nay. I'm saying nay. I like to handle it right now, so I'm saying nay
Oh,
to
okay.
that.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor would be
Aye.
aye.
Okay. What about Inslee, aye? Carol? Aye, okay. Postpone to the next meeting, so motion carries 4-1. Okay, and it will be postponed to the next meeting. Okay.